Have you ever wondered how close you've come to danger without even realizing it? At Shivering Vault, we take you there, one story at a time. But before you drift off, consider liking this video, commenting where you're watching from and at what time, and subscribing to keep these chilling stories coming. Now, let's dive into these unsettling tales. It was a late September night in a small Texas town, and the kind of rain that makes you think twice about driving anywhere was pouring nonstop. I live alone in a one-story house near the edge of town. That night, thunder was so loud it made my windows shake, and lightning lit up the rooms every few seconds like faulty light bulbs flickering on and off. I was sitting in my living room around 11:30 p.m., drinking some coffee, even though I knew I wouldn't sleep right. Something about storms makes me want to stay awake. My name's Ryan. I'm 34. I work for a local welding shop during the day, and at night I usually keep to myself. I've lived in this house going on 6 years now, and I thought I knew this town like the back of my hand. It's quiet. Nothing really happens here. That night changed the way I see this place. The storm was hitting hard, and I had the TV on low in the background when I heard this horrible screech. It was the kind of sound that makes your heart drop into your stomach. It was tires locking up and skidding, then a loud crack that echoed across the street like a gunshot. I jumped up, spilled some coffee on my shirt, and ran to the front window. Down the road, maybe 50 yards from my driveway, I saw headlights, one of them pointing down into a ditch, the other flickering like it had a short. A dark-colored sedan had slammed into a utility pole. The pole was still upright, but the car was mangled pretty bad on the front. I couldn't see anyone inside from my window, but the passenger door was wide open. I didn't even think twice. I grabbed my rain jacket from the hook by the door and ran out into the storm. The wind hit me first, hard enough to make me stumble. Rain was coming down sideways, and the lightning lit up the entire street in pulses of pale white. I ran down the soaked gravel road, slipping once in the mud but catching myself. My boots were already filled with water by the time I got halfway to the car. As I got closer, I slowed down. Something felt off. There was no one in the driver's seat. I remember thinking maybe the driver had crawled out and was lying somewhere in the grass, or maybe they ran to get help. But in this weather, the car was still running. Barely. It was making this low humming noise like it was trying to stay alive. I called out, "Hello, is anyone hurt?" No answer, just the sound of rain and the occasional rumble of thunder. I leaned into the open passenger door. The inside of the car was soaked. The seat had a torn blanket tossed across it, and a cell phone was lying on the floor, screen cracked and glowing dimly. I could see what looked like a purse or bag in the back seat. Still no sign of anyone. That's when I heard it. Movement behind me. A wet slosh, like someone stepping through thick grass or mud. I spun around fast. Lightning flashed right then, just long enough for me to see something, or someone, standing near the trees across the road, maybe 15 feet away. They were crouched low, half hidden behind a thick oak, like they were trying to stay out of sight but couldn't help looking at me. They weren't moving, just crouching there, watching. My heart started pounding in my ears. I couldn't see their face, just the outline of their body. They were wearing something dark, maybe a hoodie or a coat, but it wasn't just how still they were, it was the way they were positioned, like they weren't scared or hurt, like they were waiting. I yelled out, "Hey, are you okay? Do you need help?" No answer. Another flash of lightning. I swear to God I saw something metallic in their hand. Long and thin, could have been a crowbar, or something worse. I didn't wait to find out. I backed up, slow at first. My foot slipped in the mud and I almost fell. Then I turned and ran, faster than I've ever run in my life. I don't even remember touching the ground between the car and my front porch. I slammed the door shut and locked it. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely hold my phone as I dialed 911. I kept peeking through the window. Through the rain and wind, I could still make out that same silhouette standing near the tree now, not moving, just standing there like they were waiting for me to come back out. The cops showed up about 10 minutes later, lights cutting through the rain. I ran out and pointed to where I saw the person. They combed the area with flashlights, but whoever it was, they were gone. Just gone. No footprints they could follow. Mud was everywhere. The car was still there, engine dead now, passenger door swinging in the wind. They ran the plates. The car belonged to a woman from a neighboring county. She had been reported missing 2 days earlier. They didn't find her that night or the next day. But in the car, the cops found a few things that still make me sick when I think about them. Zip ties on the floor in the back seat, a rag that smelled like some kind of chemical, and in the glove box, a folded up printed map with certain rest stops and back roads marked with red circles. They told me later they believed the crash was staged. This guy, whoever he was, had been running some kind of roadside ambush scheme, forcing people to stop during storms or on back roads. Maybe he'd taken the woman and dumped her car to lure in the next person. That night, it almost worked. I didn't sleep for days. I still don't sleep right when it rains. I keep a baseball bat by the door now, even though I know that wouldn't do much against someone like that. People always talk about monsters like they're things in horror movies. I've seen one. And he didn't have fangs or claws or glowing eyes. He was just a man, silent, soaking wet, standing in the rain with a weapon in his hand and patience in his bones. Sometimes I think about what would have happened if I had gone into those woods. If I had followed that movement instead of running, I would have just disappeared. And the worst part is, no one would have known what really happened to me. This happened to me about 6 months ago, and it still messes with my head every time I drive at night. I told a few people about it, my sister, a close friend, but I didn't really feel like they believed me. Not really. I don't blame them. Nothing technically happened. But it almost did. I'm pretty sure I was being set up for something really bad, and I think the only reason I'm still around to talk about it is because I trusted my gut. My name's Melissa. I'm 32, a teacher, and I live in a small town in East Texas. I'd driven to visit my parents that day. They live about 2 hours away in Henderson, and stayed longer than I'd planned because my dad's been having some health issues, and we just kind of lost track of time talking and checking over some paperwork. By the time I got back on the road, it was already dark. And I don't mean like just after sunset dark. I mean pitch black. No streetlights, no passing cars, just my headlights cutting through sheets of rain on a deserted highway. The storm had started about 10 minutes into my drive back. First, it was light rain. Then all of a sudden, it turned into one of those thick downpours where you can't even see past your hood. I was gripping the wheel so tight my hands started cramping. The wipers were on full blast, but they weren't doing much. Everything just smeared and shimmered in front of me. The rain was so loud on the roof of the car, it sounded like someone was dumping gravel up there. To make matters worse, my gas light came on. I hadn't even noticed how low I was, and there was no way I'd make it home on what was left. I felt this cold panic rise in my chest because I was on a stretch of highway I didn't know very well, and I hadn't seen a gas station or even a turnoff in a long while. I slowed down a bit, partly to save fuel, partly because I could barely see. Maybe 10 minutes later, I spotted a glow ahead. One of those old yellowish signs that flickers a little and buzzes when you're up close. It looked like something out of a movie, like the kind of gas station you expect to be boarded up or closed for good. There was only one other vehicle there, a beat-up old brown pickup truck sitting at pump 2 with its headlights off. The place looked dead quiet. No cars on the road, no movement in the little convenience store. But I didn't have a choice. I pulled in under the awning at pump 3 and turned off the engine. I could see that my phone only had 1 bar of signal. I remember actually saying out loud, "Let's make this quick." The rain was so heavy it sounded like static on every side of me. You could feel the thunder in your chest. I stepped out of the car and the rain soaked through my hoodie in seconds. I started pumping gas, glancing around, no music playing, no cashier visible inside the little store, just me in that old pickup truck with all its windows tinted dark. I remember thinking, maybe whoever's in the truck is just waiting for the rain to let up. After a minute or two, the pump clicked off. I put the cap back on and got back into the car when I heard it. Footsteps. Fast. Wet slaps through puddles behind me. I looked, and this guy was coming toward me from the direction of the pickup truck. He had on a big brown hoodie pulled low over his face, and the way he was moving, it wasn't casual. It was purposeful. Urgent. He stopped a few feet from the back of my car and shouted through the rain, "Hey, miss, your back tire's flat. You better come check it out before you drive off. Could be dangerous in this weather." Something about the way he said it didn't sit right with me. He didn't seem concerned, he seemed too rehearsed, like he'd said that same line before. His voice didn't match his expression. He kept motioning toward my tire with these big, exaggerated arm movements. I remember freezing for a second. Then I glanced at my side mirror. He was standing way too close to the back of my car, pointing at the rear driver's side tire. But he wasn't even really looking at it. He was watching me. And then I noticed something else. Every few seconds, he kept glancing at the woods behind the station. Not just casually either, like he was waiting for something or someone to come out of there. My heart was beating so fast I thought I might pass out. I didn't move. I just leaned back in through the car door like I was checking something on the dash and said, "Thanks, I'll look in a second." But he didn't go away. He moved closer. "Seriously, ma'am, you gotta see it. It's real bad. You don't want to blow out on the highway." He tapped on my window with 2 fingers, soft but steady. I finally looked up at him, directly. The hoodie was soaked now and clinging to his frame, and in the flash of lightning, I saw his face clearly for the first time. He wasn't angry. He wasn't smiling. He looked expectant. His eyes weren't on mine. They were scanning inside my car. My phone on the passenger seat. My purse on the floorboard. Then, for a split second, I saw something inside his hoodie pocket. A metal handle sticking out. I don't know if it was a knife or a tool or what, but it made my stomach drop. That was enough for me. I hit the lock button and put the car in gear. He stepped back a little, but didn't move away completely. He was still trying to get me to come out. As I pulled away, he stepped toward the driver's side, but I didn't stop. I hit the gas hard, and the tires splashed through the puddles as I peeled out of there. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely grip the wheel, and I was crying before I even realized it. I didn't look back. I drove for a solid half hour before I found a proper truck stop, a big, well-lit place with an open diner and a few semis parked out front. I pulled in and parked under one of the brighter lights, got out and checked all 4 tires. Not one of them was even low. I just stood there for a few minutes, letting the rain soak me again, staring at those tires and thinking how close I'd come to stepping out into that darkness with that man. I went inside, got a coffee I didn't even drink, and sat there trying to calm myself down. I finally called the local sheriff's office and told them what had happened. They took my name and the location and said someone would look into it. A deputy called me the next morning and told me something that still gives me chills. There had been similar reports in the area over the past few months. Women traveling alone. A man pretending to be helpful, claiming their lights were out or a tire was flat. The station I stopped at? Apparently it had been reported before. No cameras, no attendant at night. Basically the perfect place for something bad to happen without anyone seeing. They never caught the guy, at least not that I know of. But I wonder how many people he tried that trick on before me, or after. I still think about what might have happened if I'd stepped out, or if I'd gone around the back of the car. or if I hadn't noticed that metal handle. Now, I never drive at night without filling up first. I don't stop at unfamiliar stations, and I always trust that uneasy feeling in my gut, because that night I didn't just get lucky, I think I got away. I don't usually like to talk about this night. I'm still not sure why I decided to stop by the gym after my shift. Maybe it was just a dumb idea, but at the time, I thought it would help me clear my head. I'm Clara, 29 years old, a nurse living in a small town out in rural Texas. It was one of those nights where the sky just looked angry. Rain had been falling all day, but now it was a full-on downpour. The kind where you can barely see a few feet in front of you through the sheets of water. The wind was howling, and the old oaks outside my apartment were bending like they were trying to break. I had just finished a late shift at the hospital. I was exhausted, both physically and mentally. The kind of tired where your whole body aches and your mind just wants to shut off. But instead of going straight home, I told myself I'd stop by the 24/7 gym nearby. It's a pretty basic place. Some old treadmills, a few weights, a stretching area, that kind of thing. I thought running a little might help me shake off the stress from work. It was almost 11 p.m. when I pulled into the gym parking lot. The place is out on the edge of town, mostly surrounded by empty fields and a few houses far away. The parking lot was soaked, the rain hammering down and creating little rivers flowing along the cracked asphalt. I parked under a flickering streetlight that gave off this weak, sickly yellow glow, barely lighting up anything. The rain bounced off my windshield, and every so often the light would cut out for a second, leaving everything pitch black except for the lightning flashes in the distance. I grabbed my gym bag, slipped on my jacket, and stepped out into the cold, wet night. The rain immediately soaked my hair and dripped down my face, but I didn't care. I hurried inside. The gym smelled like sweat and old rubber mats, mixed with the faint scent of bleach they used to clean the machines. It was completely empty. No other people, no music, just the soft hum of the old ceiling fans overhead. The lights inside buzzed softly, casting long shadows across the empty rows of equipment. I found a treadmill near the back, right in front of a big mirror that ran along the wall. I plugged in my earbuds, hit play on my playlist, and started running, trying to lose myself in the rhythm. The thunder rolled softly outside, and the rain pattered against the windows. Everything felt normal at first, but then, about 10 minutes into my run, I noticed the gym door chime. I glanced over, expecting maybe one other late-night worker or something, but what I saw made my stomach drop. A tall man, soaking wet, with a black hoodie pulled tight over his head, walked in. His jeans were drenched, clinging to his legs. The thing that caught my attention wasn't just that he was here this late or the way he looked like he'd been standing in the rain forever. It was the way he moved. He didn't head to any equipment. Didn't even seem interested in working out. He just stood near the dumbbells, staring straight ahead. But then I realized he wasn't looking at the machines. He was staring at the mirror, my reflection, and his eyes seemed locked on me. I tried to tell myself it was nothing. Maybe he was waiting for someone or just catching his breath. But something felt off. I kept running, but my mind wasn't on the treadmill anymore. Every time I looked up, he was there, just standing, still watching. His hands stayed in the pockets of his hoodie, and he didn't take off his hood, even though he must have been soaked through. The longer I stayed, the heavier the air felt, like I was trapped under a weight I couldn't lift. After a while, I stopped running. My legs were shaking, but it wasn't from exercise. I stepped off and moved toward the mat area to stretch. I wanted to stay away from him, but still keep him in my line of sight. The mat area was quiet, with thick blue mats spread out on the floor and a few small windows up high, fogged over from the rain. I tried to focus on stretching, slow and steady, but my eyes kept drifting to him. He was still standing there near the dumbbells, completely still. Then, out of nowhere, he pulled out his phone, but he didn't start typing or scrolling. The screen stayed dark, and he just held the phone up, looking at me. My heart started pounding so hard I thought it might burst. I felt completely exposed, like he knew exactly where I was and what I was doing. The fluorescent lights above flickered once, and for a second I thought maybe I should just get out of there. I quickly wiped down my mat, trying not to make a scene, and headed for the exit. I kept my head down, hoping he wouldn't follow. But as soon as I pushed open the glass door, I heard the unmistakable sound of footsteps behind me. They were slow at first, but then picking up speed. The rain was heavier now, falling like curtains, and thunder rumbled low and loud. The parking lot looked even darker, the broken streetlight flickering and casting weak pools of light. My car was parked far back, under that same flickering light. I gripped my keys tight in my hand, fingers curling around them like a lifeline, heart hammering against my ribs. The footsteps behind me got louder. I dared a glance over my shoulder. The man was there, only a few yards away, moving faster now. I didn't know why I kept looking back, but I did. Each time, he was closer. I started running toward my car, splashing through the puddles, cold rain soaking my jacket and stinging my skin. Just as I reached the door handle, headlights swept across the parking lot. A police cruiser was pulling in, wipers swishing, headlights bright as day in the dark lot. The man stopped dead in his tracks. Then, without a word, he turned and sprinted toward the road behind the gym. I didn't hesitate. I slid into my car, locked the doors. That night, I couldn't sleep. The rain hammered against my window, and I kept thinking about that man, what he wanted, why he was watching me, and what might have happened if the police hadn't shown up when they did. I'm just glad I'm still here to tell the story. That's it for today's tale from Shivering Vault. If you have a story worth sharing, drop it in the comments or send it our way. Don't forget to subscribe and share with your fellow thrill seekers. As always, the Shivering Vault thanks you for unlocking today's tale. Until next time, the vault awaits your return.